Hey guys, welcome to Listen Bitch Presents Tell Me Why You're Special. This is the arena where we don't just talk about money, we talk about the emotional chaos that's underneath it. Because the truth is, a lot of people are chasing success, they're chasing safety, worthiness, approval, and even escape. And I think eventually the hustle is really going to catch up to you. Your body's going to start screaming, your relationships are going to fall apart, and your nervous system is going to crash, and you're not even going to know who you are in the mirror anymore. And sometimes the very thing that you built your identity around becomes the thing that's going to slowly destroy you. This is what I know to be true. God did not create people to spend their lives trapped between burnout and emptiness. So today we're going to talk about what it is to be a workaholic, money, wounds, identity, self worth, and what happens to someone when someone has to, rebuild their relationship with success from the ground up. Today's guest is Scarlett Stanhope. I'm so excited for her to come into the hot seat. She is also known as the Biz Hippie, a former workaholic turned money coach, helping people transform not just their finances, but the emotional patterns underneath them. Scarlett, thank you so much for your time today. I guess let's get into what makes you special. Take me to the moment where your life stopped feeling sustainable and you realize the version of success you were chasing wasn't actually making you okay. What happened?
Yes, and thank you so much for having me. I
Yeah.
am so excited to dive into this conversation. And yeah, honestly, I see looking back many years ago when I was in this downward spiral loop, it felt like it had been going for a long time and it was kind of like a slow burn down to the bottom. And the way that I look at it when I look back is, wow, it really should have been obvious. It should have been obvious when I was in school full time getting my bachelor's degree and was working 30 hours on the weekend, managing restaurants, working until 2, 3 a.m. consistently every night, driving home at 4 a.m., 100 miles per hour on the highway, radio blasting, tears streaming down my face, screaming over the radio. In a relationship with someone who literally didn't even speak the same language as me, and telling myself and convincing myself that I was homeless because I didn't want to stay with him and I didn't want to go back home to my parents. There were so many signs, like starting to do more destructive behavior, experimenting with like marijuana and alcohol and just putting myself in dangerous situations. And yet, repeatedly, I didn't really realize that something was wrong. Especially the fact that I was feeling depressed, the fact that I was covered in head to toe eczema and had weekly migraines. Like, these are all very obvious signs, but I
Right.
didn't really realize, oh, there's actually something wrong going on here. I really just thought, this is life. This is what's happening. This is what reality looks like. I guess this is just how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I hit a harsh rock bottom, and what that actually was one day I was leaving work very late. It was like 2 a.m., and one of my friends is in the cannabis industry because that's legal where I live now in Massachusetts, and handed me an edible. And I was this young, lightweight girl who just like popped the whole thing in her mouth and
Yeah.
was like, yeah, whatever. And she was like, you ate the whole thing? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you didn't tell me not to eat the whole thing. So then I got blast off crazy out of my mind. Hi.
Wow.
Went to my now ex-boyfriend, but the guy I was dating at the time around 3 a.m., laying there while he's asleep next to me, and I just had all these epiphanies about my life. It felt like I floated up out of my body, had all these realizations and perspectives of, oh, wow, this is the reason why I'm depressed. This is the reason why I'm covered in head to toe eczema. It's because I'm being a passive participant to my life. And then I came back down into my body and immediately had the thought, oh my gosh, I'm having seizures and dying. And this is a near-death experience because
Right.
growing up, all I ever was taught is that drugs are bad and you can overdose and die. I didn't know anything about it, was doing it sneakily, secretly. And so I immediately thought I was dying, had the craziest panic attack of my life, truly, genuinely believed that this was the end. And part of me was like, okay, well, I guess this is just it. I'm going to die here. And then there was this other part that said, well, you know what? If I'm going to die, then I do not want to die here. And that was really the first moment that I made a real choice in my life and became a active participant, got up out of that bed, got into my car at 4 a.m., called my mother crying and told her everything and told her that I needed help. And that was the moment that started to change everything.
Yeah. That's incredible. First of all, I like need a nap after your busy intro of like everything you were doing at the time. I mean, even just saying that is could make anyone exhausted of just like, wow. And the thing is, what the saddest part of this, Scarlett, is that your story isn't really any different from a lot of people that are out there. And I think that's the
Totally.
most heartbreaking part because so many people are doing this.
Hmm.
What do you think what are people, what were you really trying to prove during the all business all the time years? Like, what are we doing?
Totally. And my whole identity was tied to that. And it wasn't just like my young adulthood. I was the type A high achiever, perfectionist, straight A student. I was the 8-year-old with migraine headaches. And on paper, everything looked really, really good. And so I was chasing this idea of success, money, and thinking that if I just checked enough boxes, that I would arrive at some magical destination that says, you've done it. You can start to enjoy your life now, or feel better now, or be worthy and deserving and relax and take your foot off the gas. But I had to learn the hard way that that finish line keeps on moving. And I was just stuck on the hustle hamster wheel, and me passively hustling and waiting and not being the one in control of my life, that was actually causing my life to pass me by and also made the life that I was living not worth living.
Yeah. I want my listeners to kind of be to have an awareness. So, can you tell us like what was happening kind of internally? What were the inside signs during, the depression, the migraines, your eczema? Um what's happening inside?
Yeah. So inside, the simplest way to describe it was I felt like a hollow, empty shell of a human. It felt like I had taken my whole personality, things that I cared about, things that I was passionate about, things that I enjoyed, who I was, the way that I behaved, and I took all of that and repressed it, cut it out, and basically created this empty void inside of me where I was no longer any of those things. And all I was a shell of this is who I need to be in order to be successful, in order to be worthy, in order to be liked. And so it was this empty feeling inside where I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I cared about. I didn't know what was important to me at all because I was just so caught up in this like external validation of money and success and thinking that that would fill me up and give me that sense of self-worth.
Yeah. And we're all chasing that. I think, it takes a while to realize that it's going to come from the inside. It's nothing external that's ever really going to work. But I mean, we can't just tell people that, right? Like, people have to have their near death experience or whatever big event, whatever moment to help them realize that. And it's, I mean, it's kind of a part of life, I guess. I wish there was a cheat code. I wish we could all wave a magic wand and just like everybody can skip it. But like, I think these
Yeah,
parts are kind of what matter, and it's the part that really creates us. Because if you always knew what you know now, you're not here for the full life experience.
totally. I
It's the
completely agree.
contrast. There's so much beauty in the contrast, and people get stuck, right? They get stuck in that contrast. They get stuck in that like the emptiness, and they think just continuing to chase it's going to be the next right thing. It's the next goal I reach, Scarlett. When I get that goal, I'm just going to feel so good. No, babe. I
Totally.
love that. Let's talk about full hippie mode. Okay. What did that give you that business mode didn't?
Oh, yeah. So, speaking of these like polarities and getting the full life experience, my pendulum really swung. Like,
Yeah.
that's what happened. I had that rock bottom. I went from full on business mode and started to switch into hippie mode. And at first, that looked like self-discovery. Who am I? What's actually important to me? What do I care about now that I need to rediscover myself since I had abandoned myself entirely? And then basically what happened was as soon as I got my bachelor's degree in business management, accounting, and finance, 1 month later, I got my first life coaching certification just because someone told me that it would be a good skill to have
Right.
that was useful for life. And by the time I was done with the 2 week intensive training, I said, I am all in on this. I'm going to make this my business. And I just committed full force. And from then, I committed to my business, but I also started saying yes to every single opportunity that lit me up. So I became a yoga instructor, a Reiki practitioner, a fascial release expert. I got 2 more coaching certifications in powerful modalities, and I started traveling the world and attending retreats and just saying yes to every single opportunity that I could and was just purely following my heart as much as I could.
You became the yes girl. And I feel like I know I should let you keep going, but I feel like you're going to realize at some point that, wow, you found a new form of escape.
Totally. In many ways, and
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because, this was a couple many years ago at this point, but I am these old patterns, they
Yeah.
can still show up even in other versions of success as well. And really what I found in my journey at that time was that whole first year in my business. Didn't really know what I was doing. I was floundering around, and actually I had a avoidance to helping people with money and like business because it felt too close to home. Like that's what my whole background had been in many ways. That's what my degree was in. So it felt like too obvious. And I was like, no, that's not me. But then about a year into my business, I was having a conversation with someone who was really stressed about money. She was like, I have a great 9 to 5 job. I make steady income. I feel like I'm scraping by month after month. How could I ever go full time in my business if I can't support myself financially with the work with my 9 to 5? And I
Yeah.
said, oh, actually, I have skills to help you with that from my background. And that's when I realized that you really have to bring everything together, especially like the strategic, practical, grounded side of money with the deep internal work of money, because money is just how we create and live our lives. And it's often the number one thing that holds us back from living the lives that we want to live. And I'm constantly discovering that for myself and then getting to help other people with that.
Yeah. Well, let's go there. Why don't you unpack that for the listeners today about like that emotional connection, especially between money and self worth? What does that look like?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I say all the time that money is boss level personal growth and development because you can do a lot of healing in all the areas of life and completely transform in so many ways. And yet, money can still be the one thing that's just not flowing and is still stressful and is still holding you back. And it's because money ties into so many deep things. It ties into your sense of safety, your sense of survival, which often keeps people in a constant state of stress and fight or flight. And it is deeply tied to our sense of self-worth because our society is generally trained to be fed on external validation. Right? You're in school, you got to get the good grades. When you get the good grades, you're praised. You got to get the good job. When you get the good job, right? When you get the money, when you get the
Exactly.
car, it's all external validation. And it all comes down to this tangible, intangible thing of money. And we hope that it's going to define our success. And so when we are trying to heal your relationship with money, yes, there's your actual money and what's going on in your bank account, but it really comes down to, do you believe that you're worthy and deserving? And honestly, like, do you have a deep sense of self-trust? Because if you don't have either of those things, it's going to be really hard to attract money into your life, hold on to that money when you do have it, and feel safe and feel like you have enough and that you are enough.
Yeah. And I think that balance right there to feel like you have enough and still feel like that you are enough. I think that's very important to highlight. Why do you think so many people um sabotage abundance the moment that it gets close?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a couple different reasons, but the primary overarching theme is it has to do with a comfort zone. thing. So the current life that you're living right now, when you look around and you look at your reality, including your financial reality, because your money is just how you manifest this life you're living right now.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look around, this is your comfort zone, whether you're happy about it or not, whether this is the life you want to be living or not. And most of our comfort zones, unless we intentionally shift it and change it and grow it, most of our comfort zones are based off of what we were foundationally taught growing up. Beliefs about ourselves, the world, and money. We have primary core beliefs. I like to call these scarcity seeds, like primary core scarcity seeds that we're all taught, and stories and narratives that we're not deserving, we're not worthy, money's evil, money's bad, whatever it is. Being someone who has lots of money makes you a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
So, whatever your thoughts and beliefs are that you were taught about the world, money, and yourself, that keeps you where you currently are. So even though there's a conscious part of you that wants to be successful and make lots of money and have that next level of abundance, if subconsciously your whole being is wired and programmed to protect you and keep you in this current situation based on these foundational beliefs, it doesn't matter how hard you work, what you do, how much money you make, you're still going to end up exactly in the same spot over and over again.
Yeah. I love that you're talking about that because I think that is an important conversation to have is that, we're kind of in that comfort zone. Our brain is really good at protecting us and it's not a bad thing. It's just doing its job. And we've kind of taught it like, this is what makes me feel safe. Whether we like it, whether we hate it, like this makes me feel safe. But also on the opposite side, the beautiful part about our brains is that we can rewire it. Neuroplasticity is a very real, very solid evidence of how we could break those patterns. And it is the matter of being honest with those questions. And I think a lot of people don't take it serious to answer the question. If, I know I was asked years ago, hey, Branden, do you believe you're worthy of money? Of course I'm going to say yes. Do you trust yourself with money? Of course I'm going to say yes. But then when it's quiet and I sat down with myself, I couldn't answer yes to any of that, and I think people just it's just surface. And I think if you really ask yourself these questions, that's how you start to break the pattern. Because then you're like, oh, well, if I don't trust myself, like, what is the reason? What is the big scary monster I've created in my head that's keeping me from that next step? Do you see patterns continually through coaches and healers around money? Because I do feel like there is a little bit of toxic stuff in the space. But I'm curious about patterns that you recognize in the industry.
Yes, absolutely. And I love the way that you summed up all of that. Like, yes, exactly that. It's everything that we're talking about so far is amplified when it comes to entrepreneurship, especially when that entrepreneurship is something like coaching or healing or creativity. Because when you are in a job, you are receiving external validation. Someone is saying, when you check these boxes and get this work done or work these many hours, this is what you're worth. Here's your pay.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can just wrap your mind around that pretty easily in most cases, whether you like agree with it or not, or like it, like you're like, okay, yeah, this is what you're saying I'm worth. When you become an entrepreneur, especially with something that's not really a tangible service, it's intangible, and the thing that you're offering is you, that is totally different because you are setting the price point, you are determining the value, and you are offering it to people. So, entrepreneurship is a self worth pressure cooker, and any gunk you have around yourself and money, all of that is going to show up in entrepreneurship. It's going to block sales. If you think having money is evil or bad, if you think asking for money from people is bad or wrong, like you don't want to harm them, or if you think, I don't know if this is worth that, I don't know if I can deliver this value, I don't know if people are going to pay for it, like all of that plays a huge role in being able to actually confidently say, this is what my services are worth. Will you pay it? And have people feel that and trust you and actually pay you that money and be able to keep that going and deliver the results and then eventually support yourself financially with that. So we need to do a lot of deep work in order to be successful in entrepreneurship and make money doing what we love.
Yeah. That part is important. And I think really, if you guys want to get in the arena and you want to get some thick skin there, I think being a stay at home mom is perfect because I learned what rejection is, right? Because I'm constantly, the kids are constantly like, they're not buying what I'm selling, right? And it's that I don't get paid for this. And so am I still going to show up because I love it? And I think that that's kind of what gave me the thick skin to keep going and to kind of work through that. I think everywhere in life we're kind of being built for that next level. So when you're in the arena, when you're just kind of like, oh, is this working? Because this really hurts. It's uncomfortable. You're being, you're being stretched for that next level. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. The pressure cooker. I've never heard it explained like that, and I freaking love it. I'm like, that's exactly what it is.
Yes. In order to succeed in
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, you have to do deep personal growth. It's
Yes.
the only way. And you also have to develop that deep sense of self-worth
Yes.
and self-safety and self-trust. That is the foundation to creating an abundant life because otherwise you're going to take it personally. You're not going to be able to put yourself out there, and that won't get you where you want to go.
Exactly. What do you think is something that people spiritually bypass instead of actually healing?
Mm. Yeah, I think this goes back to some of what we were talking about earlier, how there's really a deeper layer to this. And I think we can be really caught on the surface level, especially when it comes to money. Our default thought is, okay, if I don't feel abundant right now, maybe I feel stressed or scarce or it's just like not enough.
Mm-hmm.
The obvious solution is to make more money. And we think that when we make more money, I'm going to feel different. It's going to change things. Finally, I'm going to have enough. I'm going to crush my debt. Things are going to be better. But the problem is that the abundance is not an amount of money. It's a way of being. And you can make more and more money and still feel exactly the same and still be in the same exact financial situation. Because money is neutral, it's just an expander. So, whatever you got going on right now, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, the way you use your money, and you add more money to that equation, you're just creating more of whatever you currently have. And so, where people get stuck is we're in this obvious chase for more. And how we try to get more is by hustling, working harder, doing more. We often don't do the inner work also required. And then maybe we do get more, but we haven't done the work around actually transforming our relationship with money.
Right.
So more doesn't really feel like more. And if anything, it can actually increase your stress
Yes.
around money.
Yeah. And I think that, the saying that money makes you more of who you are. I think that's very important for people to
Hmm.
understand, not in a place to get stuck, not in a place to be like, oh my gosh, what if I'm not a good person and I become worse? Or, it's not that kind of reflection. It'll give you an idea of where you are in your healing journey, and the thing is that we're not stuck there. Like you're not stuck there in that feeling less than. It's just a mirror, and we say, okay, look, I'm really stressing out. I'm going to freak out to make all this stuff work. And I still catch that pattern in my life sometimes, instead of just being patient and like, okay, I'm going to trust this process here because I know I'm enough, right? But then there's that temptation of like, but I should just do this really fast because that's going to be a quick hit, right? Like that's going to be a quick fix. That's whatever it is. So I feel like it always just comes out and it just gives us a chance to get a little deeper. Like really what in me is kind of panicking right now. Let's talk to that, instead of going ahead and like I'm just going to get this part-time job over here and then I'm going to do this online. I'm going to start selling Amazon orders, whatever it is. So I think that's a great conversation. Um let's talk a little bit about that aligned success versus what other people, the shallow success or performative success, because I want that to be something that we can maybe speak to someone who this isn't even on their radar right now. They're just going through the moments, they're at their job, and maybe they're not recognizing that hollow feeling. So what's the
Hmm.
difference of that alignment or performance?
Absolutely. And it really comes back to this is essentially my definition of living your most abundant life. And when you are living your most abundant life, what's happening is you are living a life in alignment, a life that is for you, that you love, that you enjoy, that you're passionate about. And this isn't something that you were taught. I think there's a distinct difference here, right? We're all taught, okay, we want a lot of money, we want a lot of success, we want the nice, luxurious things. That's not true for everybody. Everyone actually cares about and values and desires different things. So when you can peel away these layers and say, what is really most important to me? And then how can you start to live that life starting right now, today, with the money that you already have? And I see this all the time with my clients. How you can very clearly tell the difference between if you're living a life in alignment or not is if you think it's somewhere in the future when you have more money, when you have more time, when you have more XYZ, when these magic circumstances all fall into place, then I can live the life I want to live. That's again surrendering your power and your control over to circumstances and over to money. But really, nothing is going to change. You're going to get more money and it's not going to change anything. And so the practice that we need to do is discovering what is most important to you genuinely and how can you live that life now? How can you create your most abundant life now? And when you have awareness around that, and you actually practice this, it does not matter how much money you have, you will feel that sense of abundance and freedom and fulfillment that comes from living an aligned life. One time I had a client get on a coaching call with me and say, Scarlett, I have $10 in my checking account right now.
Yeah.
But in this moment, I feel more abundant than I ever have before because I know I'm in control of my life. I know I'm in control of my money and I know more is coming and I know exactly what to do with it. And right now, I know I'm living my most aligned life.
Yeah, that's amazing. Speak to my listener right now who is just feeling exhausted by the life they built and they have no idea where to even start on that feeling of abundance. Like, what's the next right thing for them to do?
Absolutely. Well, one is recognize that you can change it. You're not trapped. I know that it feels that way. I have absolutely, absolutely been there before, and it could be difficult and challenging and uncomfortable for many reasons to even consider changing it or doing something different. But also, it's important to recognize that that is completely within your control. That is completely within your control. And so, when it comes to shifting this, it really only requires one thing, and that is transforming your relationship with money. That's going to make the biggest difference. That's the overarching theme to all of this. And when I say your relationship with money is made up with how you think about money, how you feel about money, and how you use your money. So, those are the three things that need to be addressed in order to feel more in control of your life, more empowered around your money, and abundant in your life. And so, the simple things that you can start to do now is bring awareness to your relationship with money. Notice where is scarcity or fear or hustle motivating you and driving your actions. Where are you letting money control your life? And can you start to bring awareness to those thoughts and feelings around money and what you're choosing with your money, the choices you are actively making every single day, and starting to bring awareness to all these things, create some space, create some objectivity where you can start to create cracks in these patterns and cracks in this tunnel vision that we've all been living in.
Yeah, I love that. And it's that one little thing. Like, we don't have to burn everything down and go from the extreme one extreme identity to the next. It is just like a slow accumulating process of like the next little thing, I feel like. Um how can people get resourced with you? How can they work with you, Scarlett?
Absolutely. So speaking of like what is the simple step that you can take, I actually have a great tool that will help you bring more awareness to your relationship with money. And awareness is the most important, powerful first step because unless you are aware of your current relationship with money, you can't change it. So starting to see this clearly is the best first step. And how you can do that is I have a super fun, super easy free quiz to discover your money mindset type. So, when you take this quiz, you're going to discover not only your money mindset type, but the specific steps for you based on your current money mindset to shift into more abundance. Because everyone has a different starting point, and not all money manifestation practices work depending on where you are with
Right.
your money mindset. So you're going to get great awareness around your current relationship with money, but also you're going to learn, okay, how do I actually work with this and move closer to the life I really want to be living and feeling more abundant and empowered with my money? So you can take that free quiz on my website, thebizhippie.com/quiz. There's only 7 questions. It'll take you 2 minutes to complete.
Nice. I'll make sure that's linked up in the show notes for you guys. So check that out. Scarlett, this is the part of the show where I get to tell you what I think makes you special. And it's not just that you understand money, which I mean, that's a great thing, but it's that you understand what people are trying to fill with it because you lived both extremes. You've come from the grind, the collapse, the searching, the rebuilding. And instead of staying trapped in one identity, you learned how to integrate both sides of yourself. And this is what I think is incredible. It's that you're now helping people realize that abundance isn't just about the income, it's about the self worth, it is about the alignment and really finally feeling safe enough to stop running from yourself. That we need more people like you. I think it's incredibly powerful. I think it makes you special. To everyone listening, pay attention to what you're chasing because sometimes the thing you think will save you is actually the thing that's just exhausting you. Money matters, success matters, purpose absolutely matters, but none of it's going to heal you if you still secretly believe that you're not enough. God did not create you to spend your whole life proving your worth through some performance. You already have value, born with the value. So I just want you to get really honest with yourself and ask yourself the questions. And please remember that your mess is your message. Even the burnout, even the identity crisis, no matter what's in your bank account, even the moments where everything just feels like it's falling apart. Those moments can become the beginning of the real alignment. If this episode spoke to you, please do me a favor, share it out so Scarlett can reach the people that need to hear her message. Make sure you guys get resourced in her quiz. I think that is the first step and it's not going to hurt you. I mean, 2 minutes of your day, you guys can handle getting in there and just giving yourself a little check. Maybe you think you have it all figured out. So there's the dare to see if you do get in there and just kind of go through the process. And obviously, if you guys are ready for the hot seat, I'm going to dare you to come tell me why you're special. Scarlett, this was an incredible conversation. I absolutely love your work, and I mean, you're amazing. So thank you so much for speaking to my audience today.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. This was such a great conversation, and you are so special for hosting this. It
Oh,
is amazing, and you do a great job. So, thank you.
thank